Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be doing a top 10 based on one of my favorite Star Wars games, if not my favorite. And today we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite side quests in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. So there are a couple things that I would like to mention before I actually start this video. First things first, it has actually been a little while since I've played these side quests. I did start getting back into Knights of the Old Republic maybe a few weeks ago, and I started a new game, started playing it again, but I haven't really played it since then. So it has been a while since I've actually played through the entire game, although I have played it many times. I think I have enough experience with these to kind of talk about them and everything, but this is basically just going off of my own memory, what I remember liking about them and all of that. So I might at some point actually do a full playthrough of Knights of the Old Republic, maybe 1 and 2, or maybe just one of them, I don't know. That might happen. If you want to see that, then leave a comment and stuff and let me know, and I may potentially do that at some point. That's pretty much all I wanted to say before I actually started the list, so let's get into it. So I do actually have one honorable mention, because I was looking through a list of all the side quests in Knights of the Old Republic, because again, I didn't get to play through the entire thing, and I found 11 quests that I would consider my favorite, and I do have one honorable mention since it is a top 10. So the first one, the honorable mention, is the dueling ring on Terrace. So even though it wasn't necessarily the deepest quest, or it wasn't the one that had the most interesting storyline to it or anything, the dueling ring was still kind of interesting because you could go to the cantina and you could participate in the dueling ring and fight against other duelers and stuff like that, earn a little bit of money to kind of start your way through the game and everything, since Terrace is the first planet. So I do have one other quest from Terrace on this list, and that is the bounty hunting quest. That totally was not the fifth take I had to do of saying bounty hunting. I don't know why it was so difficult. But the bounty hunting quest was pretty fun. It had you going to different parts of Terrace, so there were several people in the apartments in the upper city as well as in the lower city. I can't remember if there were anywhere else. I know there was Bendak Starkiller, who was in the dueling ring. It was still kind of interesting because you got to go bounty hunting and stuff like that. And the bounty hunters in Star Wars generally seem pretty cool. And it was just kind of a fun little quest as well, similar to the dueling ring. It wasn't necessarily the deepest one or anything like that, but it was still kind of fun. So at number 9, I actually have two that are pretty much a continuation of each other. It's pretty much the same quest, but it's split into two parts depending on what you do. And I think it's kind of fun, and that is the double cross and the double cross on Korriban. So basically what this one is on Korriban, you go to the Sith Academy, because you need to find a star map there, but you end up in the Sith Academy learning the ways of the Sith and stuff like that, because the final star map that you need to find, or final canonically, depending on what order you do it in, it may not be the last one, but the star map is in one of the tombs of one of the old Sith Lords, which in order to get into there, you need to progress through the Sith Academy and everything. This quest is pretty much you and your mentor, Yuthura Ban, and the Academy kind of master, which is Uthar. You basically, for the double cross, you talk to Yuthura, and she's like, hey, we should kill Uthar in the tomb and everything when you go for your final test and whatnot. And then you can go and tell Uthar about it, or you can not tell him anything, and that's kind of where things go. You can tell him, and he's gonna be like, oh no, I need to plan something to kill Yuthura too, and then you can go back and tell Yuthura, and because of course at the end you, I think, kill at least Uthar, if I remember correctly. Either way, you can weaken one or both of them, so you can kill both of them and stuff, and it's kind of fun and interesting. And I just thought it was a cool little quest. At number 8, I've got the quest Unfinished Business. This is for me, one of the most memorable quests. Not because it was particularly incredible and it was just amazing in every single way, but it was just kind of weird and a very out of left field quest for this game, I think. So basically in this one, you go to, again on Korriban, by the cantina, and this Rodian is like, hey, I have this box to give you, and I think it's like you have to give him some stuff, and then he gives you the box. So then he gives you this mysterious box, and he says, hey, give this to the hut on Tatooine, don't open it, no matter what you do. So, of course, you can just go straight to Tatooine and give the box to the hut, and he'll give you some money for it, but if you decide to open it, things get a little weird. You end up in like this area that is like just completely white, and except for this like area in front of you that has one of the Rakata in it, which is a species that you later find their planet later on in the game. And you know, he's like, hey, this is for like dangerous criminals and stuff. One of us is gonna get out of here, and then we have to tell each other riddles and stuff like that in order to get out. And they are fairly easy riddles, but it was still an interesting quest. It was, like I said, completely out of left field. When you go to open this box, you don't know what to expect and everything, so it was just a cool little quest. So number 7 is a Wookie Lost from Kashyyyk. Now I will say I don't remember a whole lot about this quest, but I do remember that it was interesting, and after looking up a little bit more about it, I've kind of remember a few more things about it, I guess. So basically on Kashyyyk, there's this Wookiee named Roar who has gone missing in the Shadowlands, which is like on the ground level of Kashyyyk, whereas most of the like Wookiee cities and stuff like that are up in the trees. There's this other Wookiee named Warwill who I guess was good friends with Roar and he's like, hey, this other one went missing, can you go find him and find out what happened to him? And then there's a second Wookiee named Jarak who I guess found out that Roar wanted to sell Warwill into slavery. It's kind of confusing, but Jarak killed Roar because he was like, hey, that's not okay. When you go down to the Shadowlands and you find Roar's body, you find this data pad that says, yeah, I was gonna sell him into slavery and stuff like that. So then you have to take it back and all of that kind of stuff and figure out who is guilty and who is innocent. And it was kind of an interesting quest, I remember, because, you know, you do know that Jarak killed Roar. When you go to the trial to prove Jarak innocent or guilty, you can either prove him innocent by using what you found on the data pad, or you can prove him guilty by saying, yeah, he killed this other Wookiee. It's kind of interesting, and it was a little bit confusing, I guess, when I was explaining it, but it makes more sense in the game. So at number 6 is kind of a longer quest line, which is about the Geno Haradan. So the Geno Haradan are basically like a guild of assassins. It's kind of interesting learning about their history. There's this Rodian named Hulas on Manan. He's sent someone to talk to you after you defeat Calo Nord. Basically, you go to talk to him and he's like, hey, you should join us and, you know, take out some of these people and stuff. And he tells you about this really interesting history of the guild, and how it kind of helped to influence the entire history of the Republic, which was kind of interesting. And so it gives you these targets, you go and kill them, and some of them are a little bit more difficult to do, and some of them are a little easier and stuff like that. And then at the end you find out he betrays you, and he's like, hey, these were all my superiors and stuff like that, and kind of an interesting sort of miniature plot twist, I guess, and then you can go and take them out and whatnot. It's an interesting quest line, and generally the biggest thing I like about this is learning about the guild and how they influence the history of the Republic and the Star Wars galaxy as a whole. It was just really cool. Next up at number 5, at the halfway point, we have Murdered Settler, which was on Dantooine. This is, again, for me, one of the most memorable quests, because it just comes out of nowhere, and it's just, suddenly you're just roaming around Dantooine doing your own thing, and suddenly you come across this Twi'lek Jedi, I think, and he's like, hey, this guy's been murdered, can you help us figure out who did it? So then there's these two guys that are both suspects, and you have to investigate it, talk to this droid about things that have been found, some of the evidence that has been found, how the person died and whatnot, and you have to ask the two suspects a bunch of questions and figure out what actually happened. And overall, I just think that mysteries like this are kind of interesting, particularly in games, because you're more involved in them and you're trying to figure out what happened. It was just really, to me, quite engaging and kind of fun to figure out what happened and everything. So, like I said, it was one of the most memorable quests for me, and it was just kind of interesting to do. So number 4, I have the Missing Selkath from Manon. This is, again, a really interesting quest that happens in the Sith base on Manon. Basically, you go in there to do some other stuff, but if you go to the Mercenary Enclave and talk to a Selkath named Shalis, they'll tell you, like, hey, there's a bunch of Selkath youth that have gone missing. Would you mind going and seeing what happened to these Selkath? So, as you're roaming around in the Sith base, looking around and doing stuff, you come across the youth Selkath, and they're like, yeah, the Sith are pretty cool and whatnot, and we've joined them, yeah. And then eventually you go, and as you look around more, you find ways to figure out that the Sith are not exactly great and how they kind of betrayed those Selkath youth, because you find, I think it was like one of their friends or something that got killed by the Sith, or something like that, and you can ultimately convince them to leave. And it was just a cool little quest, and I enjoyed it. Number 3 is another quest on Dantooine, which is the Sandro and Metalli feud. This is a feud between two opposing families that I guess don't really like each other that much, and seems like they never really have, from what I can remember. The Metallis tell you, hey, our son was I think it's the father, he's like, hey, my son was taken, and I'm like really sure that it was the other family, the Sandros, who took him and everything because I did something that may have made them upset. So then you have to go over to the Sandro estate and figure out what's going on there. You can kind of talk to them, and then you talk to their daughter, and she's like, yeah, we did kind of take their son and stuff like that. And then she tells you where he is, and you can go and rescue him. And then I think you eventually find out that the son and the daughter are in a relationship and stuff like that. And you can convince the two families to make up and be friends. It can come to a bunch of different conclusions. You can either encourage the two children to be together and convince the parents to make up and everything. You can make the children break up, or you can essentially have them kill each other. And it can go a lot of different ways. It was just a cool quest, and I enjoyed it. And number 2, we've got the Tusken Raiders from Tatooine. I don't remember the exact name of the quest or anything, but basically you go to the Zerka Corporation kind of area on Tatooine, and they're like, hey, there have been these Tusken Raiders who have been assaulting our parties of people and stuff like that out on the Dune Sea. Can you go take care of it? So you go to take care of it and everything. Eventually, you go to the Tusken Raider camp. If you don't have HK-47 for some reason, you basically just go in there, kill all the Tusken Raiders, and you're like, okay, I did it. But if you have HK-47, which honestly I don't see why you wouldn't, he is literally the best party member. If you have him, he can actually understand the Tusken Raider language, so you can talk to them, and eventually you can get them to stop taking and killing and everything the Zerka Corporation members. But that's not really what interests me about this quest. What really interested me was that since HK-47 is able to translate the Tusken Raider language, you can actually learn about their history and everything, which was really, really in-depth and interesting. And I just really enjoyed learning about that, because it goes back for a long ways, and you get to learn about what Tatooine was like, because it wasn't always a desert and everything, and learn about the past of the Tusken Raiders and the Jawas and everything, and it was just really interesting overall. Like I said, the quest itself wasn't what interested me, but learning about the history behind Tatooine and the Tusken Raiders was just really, really cool, and I think it is one of the best parts of the game. So now we're at number 1, which is a quest on Manon, like I said, my favorite planet. And this quest, I believe, can only be done if you have Joey Bindo in your party, who's a Jedi that you find on Kashyyyk, and it is the Sunry murder trial. So this quest is incredibly deep and a bit long, but it's very, very interesting. Like I said, the other murder quest was pretty interesting, and this one goes even deeper and is even more interesting than that one. And to me, it has always stuck out as one of the best quests in Knights of the Old Republic. So basically, if you have Jolie in your party, this woman will come up to you and she'll recognize Jolie and be like, hey, my husband has been accused of murdering a female Sith officer. And this guy who was accused is named Sunry, and I guess him and Jolie have kind of a history together. So she's like, hey, can you help prove him innocent and everything and figure out what's going on here? And that starts this whole big long quest line of trying to figure out what happened. And you go to figure out what happened to the Sith officer Alassa. You can talk to Sunry and he can give you the reasons why he's innocent. You can go to court and have a trial and explain all these different things. And you can go to a couple of different places and ask them questions and investigate. And generally it's just really interesting. And really this quest can go either way, because there is actual evidence that Sunry did kill Alassa, so you can use that against him and get him convicted, or you can just say he's innocent and everything because, of course, the officer was a Sith and you don't particularly like the Sith. Either way, it's kind of interesting, and it's really, really cool, and it's one of the deepest quests in the game and everything. It's just really cool and interesting, and I like it quite a lot. So that's pretty much the end of this video. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with any of these, or are there any other side quests in Knights of the Old Republic that you enjoy? I may or may not do a video like this for Knights of the Old Republic 2. However, I haven't been able to find a list of side quests for the second game like I was able to the first game. I've found a couple that have them, but they aren't in quite the same format, and they don't list all of the side quests and tell you what they're about in order to kind of jog my memory. That may or may not happen in the future. I would imagine if I do play through at least the second game again, then I may do a video like that, because then it would be a little fresher in my memory. But right now I can't remember things quite as well. That may or may not happen in the future, but I would like to do a video like that if I can. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any other suggestions for videos like this or anything else, then leave those in the comments. And if you'd like to see me maybe play through Knights of the Old Republic on this channel, let me know that as well. That may or may not happen, I'm not sure, but I'm also not sure if that would happen on this channel or on the gaming channel. Either way, if you would like to see that happen, then I may do that. So that's pretty much everything, so I guess I'll see you all next time.